Have you ever felt that something is about to happen? Something big? Something that could change the course of humanity forever? Since ancient times, prophecies have foretold the end of days, an imminent collapse of civilization as we know it. But there's one detail that few notice: a name, a man, a title that perhaps holds the last piece of this apocalyptic puzzle. Francis. Not just an ordinary name, but the name of a leader who sits on the most influential throne on earth, and who, according to some predictions, might be the last of his lineage, the last of his position, the last before the fall. But the fall of what? Is this just a coincidence, or are we facing the final warning? Today, you will find out. But first, leave your comment. Do you believe in prophecies? Now, get ready. Because what you are about to hear might change the way you see the future. The prophecy that foretold the end for centuries, the Catholic Church has been one of the pillars of Western civilization, but even it is not free from the fate written millennia ago. There is a prophecy that few know, and that many prefer to ignore. The prophecy of Saint Malachi. It speaks of the popes, those who would lead the Church until the end of time. And according to this prediction, there would be a specific number of popes before the final collapse. Saint Malachi wrote a list of 112 names. The first was Celestine the Q in the 12th century. The last, according to the prophecy, would be known as Peter the Roman. But there's one detail. The current Pope, Francis, has no successors on the list. What does this mean? Some say the prophecy is false, others believe it has been misinterpreted. But there are those who see what is right in front of our eyes. Francis could be the last Pope before the collapse, the last before the end. But why him? What makes him so special or so dangerous? A hidden identity? If we analyze St. Malachi's prophecy, the last pope should be called Peter the Roman. But Francis does not have that name. Or does he? Jorge Mario Bergoglio was born in Argentina. But his family came from Italy, more specifically, and from Rome. That makes him a Roman. And if he had adopted the name Peter instead of Francis, the prophecy would have been fulfilled literally. But why Francis? Maybe to mislead, maybe to avoid suspicion. Or maybe because his destiny could be even darker than we imagine. After all, Francis is the first Jesuit pope in history, and if there is one order within the Church that holds secrets, it is the Society of Jesus. But before we dive into that, we must understand something bigger. Something that connects this man to the end of the world, the final warning. In various cultures and religions, there is a common belief: before the end, a great sign will appear. Christians speak of the Antichrist and the great apostasy. Jews await the Messiah, but also the emergence of a great deceiver. Muslims warn of Dajjal, the false prophet. Even occultists believe that a great shift is coming. And now something strange is happening. The world is changing. Morality is being distorted. Beliefs are being challenged. And in the midst of it all, the Church appears to be changing its own doctrine. Francis has been called a revolutionary. But how far can this revolution go? What if the last pope is not a hero? What if he is the warning, the final warning? Before what is to come, time is running out. Every event seems to be pushing us toward an inevitable conclusion. The signs are everywhere. The prophecy says that the last leader of the Church will face a great tribulation. What if it's true? What if Francis really is the last? If he is, what does that mean for the future of humanity? Maybe it's just a coincidence. Or maybe you've just heard the warning that no one wants to acknowledge. The choice is yours. Are you ready? What happens when the last piece of the puzzle falls into place? When all the clues lead to a single destination? The answer to these questions may be closer than we imagine. Since the election of Pope Francis in 2013, something unusual seems to have settled within the Catholic Church. Unprecedented changes, unexpected attitudes, and a disturbing silence from those who should safeguard tradition. But why? Francis is not an ordinary pope. He is different from the others. And this difference may be the key to understanding everything that is happening. Now, if you think this is just a baseless theory, wait until you hear what comes next, because what we have discovered may be the greatest evidence that we are living in the last days. And if this is your last chance to learn the truth, are you ready? Then listen carefully. A papacy like no other. From the very beginning of his papacy, Francis has taken a stance that no one expected. He distanced himself from traditional rituals. He changed the way the Church communicates with the world, and most of all, he seems to be preparing something. But preparing what? Many say he is merely modernizing the Church. But is that really all? What if it is part of something much bigger? The Church's own documents speak of an event called the Great Apostasy. According to these scriptures, in the last days, there will be a departure from the true faith. Doctrines will be altered, beliefs will be distorted, and deception will take over everything. Are we already living in this time? Francis has opened doors that were never meant to be opened, and the consequences of this may be irreversible. But there is one detail that is even more terrifying. Something that could confirm that he is not just another church leader, but rather the last one, the Fatima prophecy and the leader in white. If you know the story of Fatima, then you are aware that in 1917, 3 children in Portugal received a message from the Virgin Mary. This message was divided into 3 parts. The first 2 were revealed years later, but the third remained a secret for decades. The Church only revealed the so-called Third Secret of Fatima in the year 2000, and what was said shocked the world. The secret speaks of great suffering within the Church, about a leader dressed in white, walking through a city in ruins, and in the end, falling dead. Many believed that this prophecy referred to the assassination attempt on John Paul II. But what if they were wrong? What if this vision has not yet happened? What if Francis is the leader dressed in white? What does this mean? It could be just a coincidence, or it could be the final warning that we are reaching the point of no return. Revelations, Babylon, and the Last Pope. If there is one book that speaks of the end times, it is Revelation, and within it we find a passage that may directly connect to Francis. Chapter 17 speaks of a woman dressed in purple and scarlet. She sits upon a beast with 7 heads, and written on her forehead is, "Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth." But what does this have to do with Francis? Many theologians say that this passage represents a powerful institution, an organization that already exists, and that may be on the verge of revealing its true nature. And what if this institution is the Church? What if this prophecy is a warning that something is about to happen, and that Francis may be the central piece of this event? Is he the last leader before the Great Fall, or the last before something even worse? Is Francis the last? This question echoes louder and louder. The prophecy of St. Malachi says he has no successors. The Third Secret of Fatima speaks of the death of a leader dressed in white, and Revelation describes the rise and fall of a powerful institution. Are these just coincidences, or are they the final pieces of a puzzle that is now complete? The signs are everywhere, but most people don't want to see them. They prefer to believe that all of this is just speculation. But what if it isn't? What if we are, in fact, facing the last warning? Time is running out. What will happen when the last piece falls? That only the future will tell. But one thing is certain, history will never be the same after what is coming. He appeared as a humble leader, a man who rejected luxury, who broke traditions, who spoke of mercy, yet at the same time raised suspicions. Why does Francis seem so different from his predecessors? Why does his leadership divide opinions like no other before? If he really is the last, the question we should ask is not just why, but for what purpose? The history of the Church is marked by powerful popes, men who influenced kingdoms, changed the fate of nations, and ruled with authority. But Francis seems to be preparing something. From the very first day of his pontificate, his actions have defied tradition. He opened the doors to debates that were once untouchable. He changed the way the Church interacts with the world. And above all, he did something that no other pope had done before. He unified leaders from different faiths under a single purpose: peace, unity, or the prelude to something greater, something far beyond what we can imagine, an ancient mystery. Hidden in Scripture, in ancient writings, we find an enigma, In the book of Daniel, a Jewish prophet from the Babylonian exile, there is a mysterious vision. He sees a colossal statue with different parts of the body representing different empires that would rule the world. Gold, representing Babylon. Silver, representing the Medes and Persians. Bronze, representing Greece. Iron, representing Rome. And finally, feet made of iron mixed with clay. The prophecy states that this last kingdom would be weak, divided, and in the end, a stone would fall from the sky, destroying it completely. Many believe that this last part refers to the present time, a time when the nations of the world attempt to unite, yet remain unstable, and where religion plays a fundamental role in building this new order. The role of Pope Francis fits precisely within this context. He is not just reforming the Church, he is helping to build a new system. But what will be the cost of this? A global plan in motion. In 2019, a peculiar event took place at the Vatican. A meeting was held between leaders of different religions. During this meeting, a document was signed. Its name, the Document on Human Fraternity for World Peace and Living Together. A beautiful name, but when analyzed closely, it raises a dangerous question. The document suggests that all religions must walk together, as if they were part of the same plan. But how is this possible? Each faith has its own doctrines, its own principles, but now there seems to be an effort to erase these differences. And who is at the center of it all? Francis. Prophecy says that in the last days there will be a great religious union. A fusion of beliefs, and this union will not be for good, but rather to prepare the world for something even darker. The final reform. Francis no longer hides his desire to restructure the Church, but restructure in what way? In recent years he has made statements that shock even the most traditional Catholics. Changes in liturgy, changes in doctrine, changes in how the Church deals with topics once considered untouchable. Each day it becomes clearer. He is not just leading a papacy, he is creating a new model, something unlike anything that has ever existed before. And what if this is part of a greater plan? What if Francis is not just the last pope, but the one responsible for delivering the Church into a new system? Perhaps he knows exactly what he is doing, or perhaps he is just a piece in a much larger game. The prophecy of Saint Malachi. The prophecy of Saint Malachi speaks of a final pope, but there is one detail that few people notice. The name that was supposed to be the last was not Francis, it was Peter the Roman. Apparently, this prophecy failed. Or did it? When we look at the origin of Jorge Mario Bergoglio, we discover something disturbing. His father was Italian. His family came from Rome. This makes him, by descent, a Roman. The name Francis may have been a personal choice, but his lineage confirms a chilling detail. He fits the description of the last pope prophesied. Was this just a coincidence, or a sign that the prophecy is unfolding right before our eyes? The final warning. If all of this is connected, we are about to enter an unprecedented period in human history. The last pope, the great apostasy, the fusion of religions, the creation of a new system. Are we standing at the brink of an event that will change the world forever? Many prophecies speak of this. What they all have in common is that before the end, there will be a warning. A moment when truth will be revealed to those willing to see it. But this warning will not be accepted by everyone. Many will continue to live their lives as usual, ignoring the signs, and when they finally realize it, it will be too late. The last question, is the future already written? Or is there still time to change fate? Francis may be just a reformist pope, or he may be the last before the great turning point in history. Either way, the pieces are already in motion, and the world will never be the same again. Perhaps we are standing before the final warning. Perhaps this is the last chance to see the truth. And now, everything depends on how you interpret the signs, because one thing is certain. What is coming? No one will be able to stop. The clock does not stop. With each passing day, new events unfold before our eyes. Global changes, unexpected crises, alliances that once seemed impossible. Everything is moving in one direction, but few people notice it. few truly understand what is happening. Have we reached the point of no return? Is Francis the final warning before an irreversible global transformation? This is no longer speculation. The pieces are falling into place, and those who pay attention already know. We are at a decisive moment in history. What happens now will determine the destiny of future generations, and perhaps the fate of humanity itself. Francis. More than just a pope. Francis does not govern only a church. He governs a global influence. His speeches are heard by millions. His meetings are followed by the world's most powerful leaders. His decisions resonate far beyond the Vatican walls. But why? What makes this pope different from those before him? He seems to be creating something new, something that goes beyond faith, beyond religion. With each step, Francis expands his reach. He speaks about economics, politics, the future of the world, and subtly, he is building a bridge between different systems, uniting forces that were once separate. But for what purpose? What is the true goal of this consolidation of power? And what will happen when this unification is complete? Something is being prepared, something is being orchestrated, something that has not yet been fully revealed, but can already be felt in the air. Every move Francis makes seems to be one step closer to a greater event. He has organized meetings with religious leaders from all over the world. He has spoken about the need for a new moral and social order. He has defended changes that go far beyond the church itself. Are we about to witness the moment that was foretold centuries ago? The moment when the church will take on a role it has never had before? The moment when everything that was warned about will begin to unfold? A chilling prophecy. If there is one biblical passage that terrifies even skeptics, it is found in Revelation 13. There we find the description of two beasts. One rises from the sea with great authority and power. The other rises from the earth, appearing peaceful but carrying a dangerous influence. Many scholars believe that these two figures represent forces that will be active in the last days. And what if Francis is one of them? What if his leadership is part of a much larger plan? A plan that involves not only the church but the entire world. The prophecy speaks of a global system, a system where all will be controlled, a system that will begin with a charismatic leader, a man who will appear to bring peace and hope, but who in the end will pave the way for something far worse. Are we already seeing this system emerge? The Vatican and the rise of a new order. For centuries, the church has remained separate from governments. But now, something has changed. Francis has established alliances with political, economic, and social institutions. He has spoken at international forums, proposing new directions for the world. He has advocated for the need for a global governance system. But what does this mean? If the church becomes part of the world government, it means we will have a system where faith and politics are fully intertwined. A system where spiritual and social decisions will be made by the same group of leaders. And if that happens, who will hold absolute power? Who will decide what is right and wrong? And who will be forced to obey these decisions? The answer may be more terrifying than we imagine. The last deception. Since ancient times, there have always been false prophets. There have always been leaders who promised a better future but who, in the end, led their followers to destruction. And what if we are witnessing this again? What if the greatest deception is not something that comes from outside, but something that comes from within? The final deception will not be obvious. It will not be announced as something evil. On the contrary, it will come disguised as light. It will appear to be the solution to all problems, and many will follow it without question. But in the end, when the truth is revealed, it will be too late to turn back. What comes after? If Francis is truly the last pope, what comes next? The collapse of the church? The rise of a new religious system? The fusion of all faiths into one? Or something even worse? The prophecies have warned us. The signs are everywhere. But the question that remains is, are you ready to accept the truth? Or will you ignore everything until it is too late? The choice has always been yours, but time is running out, and when the last piece falls, nothing will be able to stop it. The world seems to follow its normal course. The cities remain illuminated. People continue with their routines. Leaders keep delivering their speeches. but something feels different, an unsettling sensation, a strange silence, as if we were in the pause between two great events, on the verge of witnessing something that will change everything. And now the question echoing in every direction is the same. Will Francis be the last? The signs are right in front of us. The prophecy is unfolding, but most people haven't realized it yet. They don't see that we are at the limit. What happens next could be the beginning of the end, or the last chance to change fate. But is there still time, or have we already crossed the point of no return? The prophecy of St. Malachi, a final warning. The prophecy of St. Malachi predicted that there would be one final pope, the 112th pope. And he would be known as Peter the Roman. But now a new doubt arises. What if this prophecy is not about a single man, but about an entire system? What if the last pope is just a symbol for the complete transformation of the church? Previous popes preserved tradition, but Francis broke paradigms. He changed the way the church positions itself. He opened debates that were once unthinkable, and slowly and silently, he has been preparing something that could change the church forever, something that could be the last piece of the puzzle. But what exactly is he preparing, and why does it connect to the end times? The Fatima prophecy and a leader in white. The Fatima prophecy warned us about a leader dressed in white, a leader who would walk among ruins, a leader who would fall before a great event, a leader who would mark the end of an era. For decades, the Vatican concealed this prophecy. When it was finally revealed, many claimed that its interpretation was incomplete. But what if the event described has not yet happened? What if Francis is that leader? If this prophecy is fulfilled, it won't just be the end of a papacy. It will be the collapse of the church itself. But this doesn't mean faith will disappear. It means that something new will rise in its place, something that could change the world irreversibly, and that moment may be closer than we think. A global plan in motion. Francis has not only reformed the church, he has been preparing a global plan, a plan that involves leaders of other religions, a plan that merges politics, economics, and faith into a single structure, a plan that aims to create a new world order. They call it fraternity. They call it unity. But what if it's something much bigger? What happens when all religions merge? What happens when spirituality becomes just another tool for world governance? The prophecy states that in the last days, there will be a single system, and that system will be led by someone with absolute power. Could Francis be that leader, or is he simply the last obstacle before this system is fully implemented? The answers are emerging, but most people still don't realize what is happening right before their eyes. A new system on the horizon. Current events point to a period of transition. Wars, financial crises, the growing need for a global solution. And within this chaos, a leader emerges. He does not use weapons. He does not impose rules. He simply guides, and all follow him. Francis has been called the Pope of Peace. But does this title conceal something greater? Is he the figure who will consolidate this new system? Or is he the final obstacle before the rise of something even more powerful, something that will change the world forever? Something that could be the final fulfillment of prophecy. Time will tell, but when we realize it, it may already be too late. The final choice: what will you do? The truth is right in front of us. The prophecies speak of the last pope. The events show that we are living in a period of transition, and Francis is at the center of it all. Will he be the last, or will he be the one who prepares the world for the next leader? Each day that passes, new clues emerge, but many choose to ignore them. Many prefer to continue living as if nothing is happening. But the truth is simple. The warning has been given, the time is running out, and when the last piece falls, nothing else will be done. What will you do now? The choice is yours. But one thing is certain. What is coming, no one will be able to stop. You have heard the prophecies. You have seen the signs. Now, only one question remains. What will you do with this information? Will you ignore everything and continue as if nothing is happening, or will you open your eyes to what is coming? The times are changing, and if Francis is truly the last, it means we are closer to the end than we imagined. Now is the time to prepare. Now is the time to be aware. And if you want to keep following this investigation, subscribe to the channel now, activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos, and comment below. Do you think Francis will be the last pope? Or is something even bigger coming? Your comment could help bring more people into this discussion. And remember, time is running out, and the truth always finds a way to surface.